And now, it's the new series here on the Boxing and Jedi's Temple. For the love of comics, this one is for the comic book lover in you, baby. That's right, with your host, Jay Cotto, and you, the comic book lovers.
What's going on? All my comic book lovers and collectors and illustrators and writers, and welcome to the very first episode of For the Love of Comics. Now, what I'm going to do is ask you to hit the thumbs up so we can get some more comic book heads up in here. Let the algorithms go out. I'm going to let this play, and I'll be hitting you in 2 minutes. Let's get it, guys. Peace to Tony Sizzle. Welcome, guys. No doubt, man. Please let yourself be known. Type yourself in the comic book section. If you're a comic book writer, illustrator, colorist, pencil, whatever you are, let yourself be known, everyone. This is your stream. This is your home. This is where freedom does not have a lid. You are allowed to speak. You're allowed to express your artistic freedoms here on the Boxing and Jedi's Temple. Hello, Vicky Verse. Aloha. Definitely. Hola. My man, Tony Sizzle. Boom, son. No doubt, baby. No doubt. Peace to everybody. Remember, hit the like button on the way in so that way the algorithms can go, and we can get the show on the road. Now, of course, today this is the very first episode. Of course, there will be a second episode. And the second episode will be this Wednesday. Yeah. This is going to be an ongoing thing. Yeah, we're bonded. So we're going to be talking today first I'm going to give you guys the link. So whoever wants to join on the panel, since this is your show and it's totally interactive. And of course, we want to know exactly what you do. We also want to know exactly if you have a book out there. Let us know what your book does. You know what I mean? I'm going to reset everybody for 1 second. No one go nowhere. It's just going to go black and come right back. Don't go nowhere. And I'm back. All right. So, basically, let yourself be known. If you're an illustrator or anything, just let yourself be known. Put whatever book it is that you do as well. I'm about to put the link right here so that we whoever wants to be part of the panel tonight can be part of the panel. And yeah, we can get it on and we can talk and and you can tell us as well, your love and passion and how you started, getting into comic books and stuff. Oh yeah, definitely, man. We're gonna get to know each other, Tonka, chill out. So basically, welcome to episode 1 of For the Love of Comics. I'm your host, Gicato. Peace to the Star Wars dad. What's going on, John, my brother? No doubt, man. Welcome to For the Love of Comics. Now, of course, I put the link in the stream. If anybody wants to join, let's do it. Now, I've met a whole bunch of you guys during these days with this Ethan Van Sciver stuff, and basically it's a whole bunch of you guys. And of course, where there's opportunity, there is room to grow, and there is room for friendships and collaborations. And basically, platforms, where you're able to express your art and you're able to get it out there. And, and I will be doing reviews. Of course, the reviews start next week. Well, actually, this week on Wednesday, it will start. I will start giving reviews to the guys that have given me the PDF, uh with their work on it, whatever, novel or comic it was, and I'm going to be giving the review. The first review will come this Wednesday at 9 p.m. definitely. And I'll let you guys know who's going to be tomorrow. My man Mala, what's going on, Mala? What's going on, man? Great to see you. So hit the like on the way in, once again, guys. Well, and if you want to join this stream, the link is in the it's in the comment section. You can come join me and we can talk some comics and talk to you guys, you wonderful guys. Now, of course, the first book I want to talk about, which it was a book that was made in the early 80s, and the illustration, the story and the illustration, it was such a formula, to a point that before they even made the movie, this book had just stood out in my mind. I mean, the whole book was done in black and white. It had poems. It had all types of certain poems on it and stuff. It had. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. A bunch of nephews in the background being disrespectful. I'm about to get up and show them exactly what a belt does. But now we got the book that I'm speaking of is Jobar. Jobar's The Crow. And of course, we have on the panel with us the Star Wars dad. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man?
All right, man. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining for the love of comics, man. We're talking some comic books, man. And I was just talking about Jobar The Crow. I'm not sure if you ever read that graphic novel.
Give me just a second. I'm trying to link my Bluetooth.
I got you, brother. All right. Well, while you do that, I'm gonna tell you exactly how this impacted my life. Jobar The Crow. This book, it just flowed together with the poetry. The way the layout was, the way the story was just told, and in certain panels where they showed your blood, it's like, even though it was black and white, it was just the way it was illustrated. Blood off the hands. It was blended into the shadow, so you already knew it was blood. But and they got way graphic. I mean, that novel by Jobar is top notch, man. And if you guys haven't seen, I mean, I'm more than sure you guys seen the movie The Crow. I'm more than sure you have. But I'm more than sure that I've. Hold on for 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. Hold on for 1 second.
All right, can you hear me?
My apologies, guys. I'm sorry. So like I said, this book by Jobar is fucking awesome. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? And I think that you guys should be able to pick this up and read this book. And just admire each and every panel, bro. Oh my goodness, it's just a masterpiece. John, have you ever ran into The Crow by Jobar?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, I tell you, because I'm, of course, you being a Transformer fan, I'm more than sure that you collected the Transformer, comic books by Marvel when they were printed at the time in the 80s, right?
Of course.
Oh, and tell me those panels weren't beautiful, right?
Well, the early artwork was horrible. They didn't start getting better till probably 1988 to 1989.
Would you happen to know the name of the artist?
There was like 8 or 9 artists at the time, so
Wow. Yeah.
it's hard to pinpoint down to one artist because during that time, Transformers, they were going through a revolution. You were going because you had the UK Marvel and then you had the US Marvel, and both of them had 2 different storylines as far as the comics went.
Wow.
And then they're
Wow.
trying to match it to the toys, and some of it just wouldn't carry over.
That's true. That's true. Because sometimes, you try to, use the same formula for something, like the comic book formula, you try to use it for the toys and it just doesn't work. The only thing you can do with the toys is probably make it close to the comic book detail when you're making, the sculpture of the toy itself. But as to throwing the storylines within the cartoons or, it's not, you're exactly right. It's not going to work. And then, especially when you have too many hands on it, and then, like, let's just say you can have 4 writers behind it, and maybe out of 4 writers, you might have 3 that are on the same page, right? And it's always that one. It's always that Ryan Johnson. It's always that one Ryan Johnson that's got to try to switch something up, and you know what I mean?
Well, see, Maze and I, we both use the same example all the time of if you want to see a franchise die, right? Look back to Transformers 1986, the movie, where they killed off Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
When they killed off Optimus Prime, the franchise, it took a nosedive because you can't just kill off the most beloved character in a franchise and not expect to have backlash from it.
Exactly. It's like the Crow. See, this is why it all ties in. The Crow. That's the only character, and this is the only story arc where it should have just stood. Even in the movies, it should have just stood book 1. That's it. Leave it alone. Because Eric Draven, I mean, it's a great storyline. Eric Draven, he was a struggling rock star. He finally got onto the scene, and basically his girlfriend, she was basically an activist, and she was an activist for the whole, basically the whole freaking neighborhood, and she was trying to clean up the neighborhood from all the gang, the drug, the gangs and stuff like that. And basically what happened was these guys, she was very close to getting, a lot of power behind it in order for them to, clean up the streets. And then what happens? The gangs, they come, they torture her, they rape her, they kill him, they throw him out the window, and then all of a sudden it's like, I guess, in that world it wasn't even God. It was just like basically the Crow spirit came and granted him vengeance. So he came and he fucking painted his face like a mannequin, had a trench coat. I mean, in the original comics, he doesn't wear a suit. He's just got a trench coat and he's just like got no shirt. And he's just all pale white. You know what I mean? He looks like a porcelain doll. And he tortures. In the comic, it's so graphic. I mean, he tortures these fucking guys. The thing is that the panels are in black and white, and they're so beautifully drawn. The story is so beautifully told, man. I go get it. They're reprinted. It's called Jobar The Crow. PD, what's going on? The Red Glove Militant, Sizzle, and Vicky versus with us, baby. No doubt.
I gotta say, my favorite comic story of all time. I was always a huge fan of the Spawn.
Oh yeah, Todd McFarlane, man, when he made Image Comics, with and people, I don't know if you guys know this because I'm a comic book head from the mid '80s all the way to maybe the late '90s, and then I stopped because then that's when Marvel just started with this shit that they're doing now. I've seen the transition, especially with DC and the rest of the indie comic groups, and I think that the indie comic groups last longer, and they're very underrated because these are original stories. I mean, we'll get into that, but yeah, the best story on a comic book that I've ever come across was Oh man, I forgot the name of it. I had it at the tip of my tongue. It was a Marvel book, and it had to do with something with the future. What was it? Was it
Crisis,
Planet X? What was it?
Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yes. No. That's DC. No, it was
Yeah.
it was Earth X. I think it was. I think it was called Earth X or World War or World X. I forgot the name. But I gotta. But the whole thing is that story. It was all about there was an egg in a planet, and the reason why the mutants were the mutants and everybody else. It explained everything. At the end, you see a Captain America who's bald with the fucking the A is like scarred on his face. He's still got the adamantium shield, but he wears something like a fucking like a fucking a satchel and shit. And I mean, it was crazy. Tony Stark's at the end. He makes the whole fucking city. He makes the whole fucking New York City, and it just turns into a fucking robot in order to fight these. I forgot the name of that fucking book, man. I will remember it, man. It's so old school, but these are books in the '80s that were, I mean, they're timeless, and the stories they're linking up to shit now. They're like, taking bits and pieces from that story that I'm talking. I think it was called, oh, what was it? War on Planet X or something. God dang it! But we'll get into it, man. Do you have a favorite comic book artist, John?
I can't say I have a actual to God favorite artist. Now there was one of my favorite artists from the '70s. This is how far back we're going to go. There was a guy named Jeremy Spine that dictated, and I loved his style. He would draw everything in dots, just absolute dots.
Wow.
And what I loved about the comic though was the story. The story was just absolutely phenomenal. But when he would illustrate, it was something unseen before the way, he would draw. This is why his comics, they would make them 2-3 years, in advance and publish them every month because it was so detailed in how he actually drew. It was absolutely phenomenal. Now, I can't remember who it is because, like, my all-time favorite comic book character of all time, I know I'm going to sound cheesy, but it's Superman, and we're talking the early Superman. I am all about,
You're talking about John Byrne, one of my favorite artists.
Yes, and I am all about the red, white, and blue, and the American way and what Superman stands for, because I was one of those people, so many people loved Man of Steel when it came out.
Yeah.
And I walked out of that movie theater pissed off. I was like, that is not Superman.
Yeah. I like to say what's up to everybody that has just joined the For the Comics of Love live stream, episode 1. Tony Sizzle, and of course, Tonic Mole. What's going on there, brother? Good to see you. And the Mighty Mazerus. What's going on, Maze? Definitely, man. Everybody like and subscribe to each other. This is going to be a permanent, and I'm saying a permanent episode 2 of For the Love of Comics will be coming Wednesday at 9 p.m. But we're talking anybody that's in the comment section. I have dropped the link. I'll drop the link again. So whoever wants to join me and John on the panel, you're more than welcome to. You can tell us your love for the comics, exactly why you love them. If you happen to be an artist and an illustrator, a story writer, a writer or whatever, hey man, get on with us, man. This is your live stream, man. This is what this is for. And if anyone has their favorite comic book artist, it can be more than 1 or 2, write them down. Let's interact. But my favorite comic book artist of all time is Jim Lee.
Good choice. Good choice.
Listen, I mean, I love John Byrne. I mean, he's one of the originators. Jim Lee, for me, especially growing up, in the 90s, you know, I I I I used to love going to comic book stores, right? Because the smell, and may he rest in peace, his name is Moses. This guy was the neighborhood comic book store. I would love to walk into this comic book store. You walked up, you know, it was right next to a garage, and then a big garage, and then it was right there in a little itty bitty corner, and you would go straight up the stairs. And once you go up the stairs, it was just like as comfy as a living room, and went a little bit deep, but all you seen were the valuable comics going for like from fucking $50 to like $3,000-$4,000 up against the wall, neatly stacked. And then you had the bins and the smell of sandalwood.
Yeah.
The smell of sandalwood. And then when you opened up the fresh comic that was pressed for that monthly that you waited, man, and you waited at the lunch table, you waited. All of a sudden, you just smell the fresh pages, the fresh ink off the pages, baby. There's nothing like a physical comic book, man. You know what I mean? That shit, man. You know. But Jim Lee, he was introduced to me when I first saw his Wolverine. This son of a bitch could draw the shit out of a Wolverine. And then I seen that he had the X-Men. He had the X-Men series.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, yes. And to this day, that is like one of the most top selling series with Jim Lee behind it, man.
You know, it's funny because growing up, there was just three major comics that I was into, you know, when I was young. Um, DC, Marvel, and of course, Star Wars. You know, Star Wars, I would get their comic every month when it came out. And same way with some of my favorite DC characters. And then, of course, Marvel. You know, I was a huge Wolverine fan. I was getting Wolverine every chance I got. Of course, I was getting every Spider-Man I could get my hands on. But what I love so much about DC, I mean, about Marvel over DC, was, you know, your DC characters, you had characters like Superman, you had Wonder Woman, you had Flash, you know, and you couldn't relate to these people at all because they were basically gods walking among man. That's how I basically put it. You know, you had Superman and Wonder Woman. I mean, they were like gods. You know, while when you flipped over to Marvel, you had characters like Spider-Man and Wolverine, you had all the X-Men, you had Tony Stark that was a drunk.
Right.
You know, you could relate to each one of these characters, you know, and Spider-Man is probably the most relatable character ever put in comics.
Yeah, definitely.
Every last one of us can relate to Spider-Man in one form or fashion or another. You know?
Yeah, or in one phase of our life, and in that phase, which is more important, being a teenager, being faced with so much responsibility. You know what I mean? And always being late for shit and stuff. And listen, Tonic Mole, I want to let you know, if you have a book, if you want to plug it, my friend, grab the link that's on there and get on. And there's also my email on there. Send me a PDF of your book, which is what all most of the independent comic book illustrators and writers are doing, and I'm going to start giving review reaction videos on your work. So I'm here to help, guys. I'm here to help, man, like I promised. So you know just like you were stating, we relate to these to these characters. These characters were before our time, before we were born. Like Captain America was written while we were still swimming in our parents' nuts in their genes. We weren't even thought of, probably, right?
No, our parents weren't even thought of yet.
Exactly. And this is why I don't really like this PC culture that, where they trying to just switch things up without, paying homage at least, or without giving it a good death that it deserves. If you're going to do that, at least let it pass the torch, but no, right away, it's forcefully done. And this is what we find disrespectful, and definitely Tonic, I got your back, brother. I got your back. Remember, this is going to be a nice episodic series. So, keep tuning in, subscribe, my friend. Everybody here, subscribe to Tonic Mole, subscribe to Red Glove Militant, to Mazerus, to the Star Wars Dad. you know, because everybody, regardless with Star Wars, boxing community, diorama community, it doesn't matter. It all winds up to we all love the same thing. You know what I mean? And everybody has a fucking comic book or has read one or has had a passion or love for it. You know what I mean? I'm more than sure that when people had first laid their eyes on a comic book, they were inspired to draw.
Yeah.
Everyone, they were inspired to draw before they were inspired to write. You know what I mean? And that's something that we have to look at as, wow, comic books are a part of our life. You know, and that's why I say screw whatever adult. And like I said, I'm 45, and look, I still wear my Star Wars shirts. You know what I mean? I still got my collectibles. I still, hey, it's a culture. Comic books are part of our culture, and it's a culture in itself. I mean, how many books out there? How many graphic novels that are out there? How many have their own world, their own story? You know, this is why I just sit back and I'm just like, how dare they try to just change everything? That's why I hope that, you know, all the new artists, you know, the illustrators, the writers, or everybody, all the new publishers, all the indie comics, I hope that you guys just stick to your guns, man. If you're going to sell a character, you make sure that they do not misuse that character. You make sure you have your creative rights, so that way they won't switch anything that's original. Because if you bought that formula, they bought that formula for a reason. That reason is because they know it works. Now, just like a rumor that can be changed going down the line, so can your character be changed going down the line in their bullshit. You know, so you know it's you're gonna learn a lot on this channel. But the next artist I wanted to talk about as well was Joe Quesada, and he used to draw Daredevil in the mid '90s, man. You know, and he's also, if I'm not mistaken, the chief editor in Marvel. You know, and or used to be. I'm not really sure on that. Somebody want to educate me on that? I'm always open. Mazur says I agree. At least let it pass the torch, and yeah, and don't make these new characters. Exactly. Exactly, and make the new characters likable. He goes, I'm all for new heroes. All you got to do is make us like them. Exactly, exactly.
Well, you know how we grew up, Jay, um, was during what I call the golden age of comics. Because you know, if you were a shy kid, or if you were withdrawn, or um, you know, you didn't have a good family life, just whatever, you know, you could walk into your comic store and you could pick up a comic, and you could immerse yourself inside that comic and be inspired to be a better person
Yes,
by reading that comic.
yes,
Today, they have taken everything that is good and pure about comics, and man, they've twisted it to be evil and nasty. You know, when you've got Iceman being bent over a table and taking it from behind in a comic book, there's something wrong.
right, right. Yeah, absolutely right. There is, yeah, yeah. Those are the signs. Yeah, signs. Yeah, definitely. And this is, you know, like, you know, I'm also going to show you a couple of my illustrations as well, because you know, you know, this is the only way I can do it, as I open up my email and I you know, check the PDFs you guys show me, and I'm going to see your magnificent work as well. And this floor is open to anyone who, you know, basically wants to collaborate or get their stuff out there. You can plug. Once again, I'm going to throw the link here, and whoever wants to join the panel, if you want to plug your book, whatever you have, if you basically just want to get on and tell us your love and passion for comic books, you know, come on down, man. Come on down. This is your show too, man. Join me in the Star Wars Dad. Let's get down. We're talking comics here. All right. So when I the way he used to draw, Joe Quesada, his style was all of these guys had, you know, the big beefy chin with the clef. Everybody in his comic book had a clef, you know.
Mhm.
And when he drew Matt Murdock's father, when he started the series and he drew his father, like, he drew the actual idea picture of what I used to picture reading Daredevil comics back then before Joe Quesada series. I used to be like, oh shit, like, man, this is exactly how I pictured him. Because the other, you know, they used to make him slim, they used to make him look like a lightweight and everything, but he was really a heavyweight. And when Joe Quesada did a panel on the first Daredevil, I was like, holy crap. Like, you know, he it's like he picked my mind. And I remember when I met him on 23rd in 23rd Street. I'm not even sure if they even have that comic book store open anymore. And you know, he was giving out autographs, and I bought the Daredevil off the rack, and I got his autograph. And the one thing I asked him was, who did you model that after? Like, because I always wanted to know who Daredevil's father, like what Daredevil's father looked like, and that's exactly what he said, that he modeled him after Jack Dempsey.
Really?
Yeah, and if you look at Jack Dempsey has a brawly chin, you know, with the clef, the really beefy, brawly, little stocky Abram tank fucking fighters, and that
Yeah.
was awesome. Yeah. Let's see. May says, remember when Bugs Bunny got a comic book in the mail and said, "I can hardly wait to see what happened to Dick Tracy." A great example of society immersing itself. Exactly, my brother. Even way back when. Yup. And Tonic Mole says, uh, 90s and before, no one wanted to work in the yup, yeah, exactly, in the comics except for the most passionate. Right. Right. Now everyone sees it as a stepping stone to movies, so it's flooded with rich hacks. And I couldn't agree with you more. I swear to God, Tonic, you hit it right on the nose. I remember that. I remember when it was transitioning, and you know, Image Comics was created. Before that, and it was it was Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and that's when Pit was created. That was when Spawn was created. That was when Wildcats was created. That was when Wetworks was created. That, you know what I mean? And Image became like the first indie sort of, commercialized press because of the artists. The artists were known because of the work, the magnificent work they've done, you know, in Marvel, and
Well,
yeah.
Jay, I don't know if you know who she is. Maybe the audience does, but now at Marvel, they got that artist, the really, really, really hot blonde girl that's known for her milkshake gang. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, no, I don't. Shit.
She's a huge SJW, and she's one of these people that's ruining comics in Marvel as what we know today. She's the one that's writing all this gay crap, into our comics, and trans this and that. We can't get a good story now because they have to interject, this crap into it instead of just giving us a good storyline.
Yeah, listen. I'm gonna go straight to Michael Bendis on this one, because what you're talking about, I love Michael. His art. I mean, this guy's anatomy, his proportion. I mean, this guy is. I mean, to me, I think him and Jim Lee, man, they would both give each other a run for the money if they was to play comic chess. Which was a game I used to play with other comic book illustrators in high school, which I'll explain later on in the series. You guys can play along with this with your friends as well, which is awesome. So basically, Michael Bendis did this series called Outbreak, right? Or Breakout. Yeah, it was called Breakout, where all the villains broke out of the Rikers Island prison and stuff, and it was a great series. It was well illustrated, it was well written. I mean, it was beautiful, each and every fucking panel, gorgeous, right? And what I love about it is Carol Danvers, right? Captain Marvel, right? Miss Marvel, right? They kept the original blonde hair, beautiful looking, with the nice tight, wearing a G-string for a costume, and after that, look what they've done with Captain Marvel, with which is, I'm touching base with what you're saying, and what Tonic Mole is saying here, and everybody else is saying about people just switching these characters without paying any homage, or at least passing the torch, or giving them the honorable death that they deserve. It's also in our movies with our Star Wars and our Star Trek and our Doctor Who and everywhere else, and it's very disrespectful. And just like Tonic Mo said, there are a lot of fucking rich hacks that just use shit that we consider a passion, shit that we considered, And even if you don't, there are passionate comic book collectors, you know, and they're finding this shit offensive because these are the ones that matter. Actually, they matter more than the artists. They matter more than because they are consuming your art. They are consuming your story. So they have a right to say this shit is crap. This shit is good. But now when when they're trying to voice their opinion with these new fucking SJWs and these new PC culture, all of a sudden they're silent. They're shut out. Even the artists, even the writers, and it's not fair. So this is what Michael Bendis did. Michael Bendis told Marvel, "I'm going to draw, I'm going to write, and my team are going to have total freedoms with this. If you can't hack it, then I'm gone." And that's what a lot of these artists and writers, and they have to stand up to contractual agreements and for your creative freedoms, man. George Lucas 101.
Well, hell, even the great Stan Lee, out of all people in the world, right? When Stan Lee gave interviews, people would ask him about, you know, how do you feel about your character being made gay? How do you feel about them being gender swapped, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And Stan Lee was like, I have no problems with someone making another character, but the characters I've created, leave them just the way they are. Do
Right.
not touch them.
Yep. Do not touch them. Don't. I mean, if there's going to be any new design added, like any costume, like for Christ's sake, Batman's costume, I can understand. See, this is what I mean. Like, okay, Miles Morales, the reason why he was so accepted and so loved, and the reason why we accept him is simply because they didn't shove this kid down our throat. They didn't shove the agenda that, oh, we need a black Spider-Man. They didn't do that. I think the way they introduced Miles Morales, they did it in a nice, genius way.
Yeah, he's got a great story to him.
Exactly. And it's just to a point that, as you move down now into more comic books, a lot of these writers, they want to keep their job. A lot of these artists, they want to keep their job. So what do? They go with the agenda just to keep their job. But at the same time, you're desecrating what you supposedly love.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of comic book collectors, a lot, and real artists, and this is why the indie scene is going to be more powerful than the branded scene. Trust me when I say this. There are so many creative geniuses, man, within the independent fucking comic book industry. And yes, indie is its own fucking industry. Okay? Understand that. These independent artists, writers, and the publishers as well, it's all its own industry. It's totally separated from the commercial. The commercial is falling. And if you're running around saying that the indie industry is not an entity by itself, then you know what? You might as well sell out now. You might as well sell out now. You know what I mean? Mala says, damn right, Star Wars Dad. It's like being a heterosexual male is a crime these days. That's what Mala says. Red Glove says, Red Glove wants to know if I got an autograph from Stanley. No, sir. No, sir. No, brother. No, I wish. And whoever's got Stanley's autograph, God bless you, man. Make sure that shit, preserve it. Preserve it. It just, it gets to a point with these industries, and my whole thing here is, if you're going to sign with anything, if you go, just make sure that you have your creative freedom. They never take that away from you. Make sure that's never taken away from you. Even if you're a diorama maker, let's just say, and you come up with a new design, something. You know, even if you're a character designer, if you just design characters and you just, you know, on some shit where you're just selling characters, if you're allowing them to just buy that character and they can do whatever they want and they're just buying the design from it, okay, fine. But now if you're selling a story with this character and, you know, it's your baby too, so you have to make sure that you're signed on to it as well. You know, you have to make sure that they're guiding this the way you want it guided. At the same time, you're meeting their quota. The reason why they bought it, and that's to make them money. But they have to understand exactly that the only way they're going to do that is if they let you take full control, right? It's just like getting in an airplane. You want to get to the destination, right? The only way you're going to get there is if you let the pilot do his fucking job. You getting all panicky or impatient, going up to the cockpit and yelling at the fucking pilot, saying "get there faster" is not going to get you there faster, right? So let the man do his job. Basically, like I'm saying with these guys, let them do their fucking job. Make sure that they let you do your job.
You know, it's so funny you say that because, you know, I've been kicking around like a trilogy that I would write in my own mind for the longest time.
Right.
And I like to, you know, go to like a fantasy setting. I think of like this this elf, or more like the hybrid of an elf, you know, that had a like an elven mother and a human father,
Wow.
and he was born, you know, into darkness, and he's developed, you know, what I call like gloomstalker powers. He merges with the darkness, right? And
Oh,
you have the hero's journey throughout the three books, and at the very end of the books, he sacrifices himself to bring the two races back together.
wow. Wow. Man, hey, you know, hey, hire a writer and hire an artist, man. You know, and hey, you might get. I'm telling you, man. That's I mean, look, man. You know how many you know how many stories I've read. Like, you know, it's if you know what you're doing and it's a passion, it's simple. But yet at the same time, when you're putting the chemistry down, it's not simple. You know, so that's why I guess most people get the perception that, you know, for artists and writers, it's easy to draw and it's easy, you know, but it's not. Once you try to do a craft that it, so what I'm saying here is, you know, just to be one, just to be one, stay focused and just make sure that, you know, you are doing what you are going to do.
Yeah.
You know, my whole thing is this: if I ever sign, I'm gonna tell them I want my creative freedoms in this series you're signing me for. I'm going to do your work, but at the same time, you know, I have room for for correction. But if I sign on, I want to be able to draw. Let's just say I want to be able to be free with my style. I want to be able to, you know, experiment with certain things, of course, with their permissions, but you have to allow me to experiment because for artists like illustrators, sometimes, you know, they have a style and then all of a sudden it's like a super saiyan mode where you find another style, you know, because I believe in styles. You know, look, I can draw American comic book style. I can draw Chinese comic book style. I can draw Japanese anime style. You know, I can draw still life. I can. That's what I mean about styles. And sometimes a lot of artists, they run into a method or a style, a different style, while they're drawing something on a project. So instead of stopping to record that style so you can later on pick it up and adapt it, what's better is you try to adapt that along going away with the project you're doing now. So that way it's sort of like an advertisement, you know what I mean? It's sort of like an advertisement to the next project and what to expect, and they can actually see the transition of you and your concentration and your focus and how you graduated at that point in your work. That's why it's so important. And Jim Lee used to do that. Mark Silvestri used to do that. John Byrne used to do that. That's why their proportion, their anatomy was perfect.
I agree. And, you know, this story that I'm talking about, writing this trilogy, you know, there would be a lot of what I call like modern day problems in there in a fantasy setting, because let's say you have this, what I call half elf,
Right.
you are going to have major prejudice against him from both races, from both humans and from elves, because he's not a full elf and he's not a full human, so both races want nothing to do with him. And the first book would be, introducing the character and introducing this world that he lives in, and about the prejudice that he's going through and how life is just keeping him down, and there's going to be a little magic added here and there, but it's not going to be, over the top. But, in my mind, he's always believing, for the very, very best for both these houses that want nothing to do with him. And he, throughout his hero's journey, he is doing everything in his power to bring these two houses together. And at the end, there would be some event where he lays his life down to bring the two houses together, and they finally unite.
Man, yeah, man. I think you should work on that when when you have time and shit, man. First hobby it out, start writing it out and shit, and then later on, as time goes on and progresses and you have more time, if you want to illustrate it yourself, illustrate like one scene from, you know what I mean, and that's how you get latched onto it. Try it, man. That sounds very. Is there any title to it or anything like that? Like, have you thought of giving it a title or a name or something?
The first book, I would probably, I've been kicking around like the Call of Josephus, and where that comes from, it would be like a deity calling him to reunite the houses, and it would be the Call of Josephus. And then the second book and would be, I'm not sure yet, but I would just call the third book just Redemption.
Nice. And would you break that up in a series?
Yeah, into a trilogy.
Nice. That sounds fucking great, man. That sounds awesome. All right, Tonic Mo, man, you have yourself a good night, my brother. Definitely. Red Glove says I like John Kay's style too. I like John Kay's style. Too bad he turned out to be a weirdo. The autograph I got was Joe Quesada's on the Daredevil #1 that he drew. I think it was in what was it, 94, if I'm not mistaken, 95. So I got his autograph on that. Now there was a young comic, Pocket Jacks Comics. What's going on? And for those guys that dropped the PDF with their work, it's gonna let you know this is episode #1. Episode #2 on Wednesday will be coming on, and I will be reviewing one of the comics that have been sent to me. So there's going to be a lot of reading that I have to do. So I will try to review one comic from you guys, your work, one project from you guys every episode. So the next episode, episode 2, will be on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Okay, guys? Same time today. I said 8 because I got mixed up with the time with other followers, of the channel and shit, but it's really 9 p.m. my time. So I apologize for that. So yes, Pocket Jacks, I'm reading yours, definitely. Yes, I'm in between a lot of them, trust me, especially when I'm at work. I'm just like, dude, going through my phone. So we're good. Once again, I'm gonna throw on the link. If anybody wants to join, you can talk about your project. Let us know what you have. You can let us know about your passion and love for comics, exactly what started you out in comics. You can share a story with us. I want to touch on something that you said earlier, John, about comics as to when we were smaller, and if you were one of those shy kids or one of those kids that were just always, just put in the corner while, you had family functions, or you were just that kid that, just didn't stand out and shit, didn't want to stand out, or you had a whole group of friends that were just like you and you all got together and traded comics. Listen, I was one of those, comic book, and what was funny is I would always try to reenact the panels with my fucking toys and shit, uh, from the comic book. You know what I mean? I always would try
Yeah.
that. Basically, comic books would give me the imagination, and and it would give me the ideas of how to play with my goddamn toys.
Believe me, I know, because up until high school, you got to understand, I started school a year earlier than everybody else. I started at 4 instead of 5. So I was a year behind everybody when I was in school. So up until high school, I was like really smaller than everybody else. But the problem was I was smarter than everybody else. Um, um, you guys know me. I do math like drinking water. I mean,
Yeah,
but when I hit high school, all of a sudden my body developed, and I became John. But I was awkward till then. I really was. I was awkward, and so my comics, my Star Wars, my Transformers, they they gave me the comfort that I needed until I came into stories that came along with that. I mean, it's why, we're talking comics tonight. We're not talking Star Wars, but it's why, I've associated so strongly with Luke Skywalker for my entire life, because I look at Luke Skywalker just like I look at Superman as that's the person I want to be. I see hope, in this character, just like when I looked at Superman, I see hope in this character. This is the type of person I want to be, and I learned, morals and values from, watching Star Wars or reading Superman or, I mean, it meant a lot to me as a kid.
yeah, yeah, and I can imagine everyone else. This is why I'm asking. Anyone want to get on the panel? Come on down, man. Get on the panel. Let us know your stories, man. Give us your stories. I'm curious on exactly how you guys, you know, gotten into comics and gotten so far, to be illustrators and writers and stuff, man. Come on, guys, get on the stream, or at least write it down in the comment section, man. Let's interact, guys. But yo, man, yeah, I have to agree with you, man. This shit is powerful, man. Comic books are powerful, even from the times of World War II, you know.
Well,
Comic books kept the soldiers entertained. It kept the comic books helped the soldiers boost up their ego with Captain America and Super, right. It
yeah,
boosted them up, and at the same time it gave them that hope, to where on the comic book panels, whenever they showed Captain America hitting Hitler or something, or hitting one of the Japanese soldiers or something, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing to see. Hello, you still there?
yeah,
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to see. So a lot of these soldiers are, they went on that battlefield and stuff, and there are pictures of them reading Captain America, and they kicking back in their tanks and stuff, and their minds is helping them escape, and that's why comic books are so important.
well, heck, I mean, let's break it down, because it's not even just what we think of as like the major players for comics. When you think major players for comics, you think DC, Marvel, things like Spawn or Conan, with Dark Horse Comics. You had great comics, when we were growing up, with like Garfield. Um, you had, full illustration books of Garfield comics. You had God, Iggy, you know, full illustrations, Beetle Bailey comics, you know, and it was just enough escapism to actually just make you feel good and, you know, give you a few chuckles and a few laughs, and you went about your day. But I mean, it was some good fun.
Right.
The days of this are over. I mean, let's face it. I do not want my son reading modern comic books whatsoever because of the junk that's in them now.
Right. Right. This is exactly why I'm happy that, you know, there are independent comic book publishers, that are hiring these artists and these writers, and they're filtering out that shit and keeping comic books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not with that agenda shit. This is exactly why I say it's an industry in itself. The moment the mainstream went with the agenda, it's not that the indie scene went, it became a entity by itself at that time, because it's just the hard work that was going on behind the scenes building up, and now it's recognized. And then you've got these fucks that are just trying to split it in half. So this is why they filter it out. They filter it out, and I'm glad that this is happening. There was one artist at that time in the 90s that he was very young. He got signed. He was one of the guys that left with Image. Didn't last too long. And I'm sorry, guys. I mean, we can see bad proportion, bad fucking detailing when we see it. And his name is Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld. He used to draw X-Force, and he's a creator of Cable and Deadpool. These were his characters. Look, he was better creating characters than he was drawing them. But this kid got far. This kid got very far. As a matter of fact, he's the youngest to ever be signed, right? But his comic book sales started dropping because they started noticing that when you draw hands and you draw fists, it's not always drawn with the second knuckle out. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, when they're standing down like this, and you got to draw them with their hands. If you're drawing a fist and with a little bit of the wrist bent and stuff, he was always like this, drawing them like this. And this, if you put a gun in there, that's exactly what it looks like, with the gun on a horizontal. So it's like his proportion was terrible, but his colors were there, his action poses, and they were always the same. The action poses with a bent knee, and then you would see his foot. That's it. You wouldn't see a little bit of the ankle or a little bit of the shin. It was always the folded the folded thigh and the foot showing out of the thigh. So he looked like a midget in the air. So he didn't angle it right. It's like, and they looked rushed. Like most of his projects looked rushed in X-Force back there. If you don't believe me, look at the way he drew. You've got one short arm, and it's not a style, it's an era. You've got, he drew Captain America one time on a side view. Now on a side view, you've got the collarbone, and then you've got the pectoral on the right side from this angle, and then you got the pectoral on the right side looks a bit shorter because it's away from the angle here, right? So he used to just draw the same pectoral that looks big on the left here. He used to draw it the same size of here, so it's totally out of dimension, totally out of proportion. And then it was just too. Then he used to draw the collarbone and look like a step, and then the trapezius, it didn't look right. It just, he had terrible proportion. Not terrible skill. He had room to improve. It's just he tried, and I just can't get into his art because you can tell when he draws, he's not taking his time. He did it back then in the 90s, and he's doing it in some projects now. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like I said, I've been reading comics for a long time. So, let's see. Red Glove says, "Oh, weren't there comics of heroes fighting the Nazis?" Yeah, yeah, which was Captain America and uh, let's see. Red Glove says pansexual comics are nasty. It says, so his intimidations were exposed. Yeah, so yeah, man, his limitations were exposed. They were exposed. The first issue, the cover of X Force. He had Cannonball, and one thing I could say that he had was detail in the clothing. That I would say was on point. But the anatomy itself, I mean, like I said, it was all off. Like from the knee going into the outer thigh, which looks like a teardrop when you're drawing the thigh and shit, the front of the thigh. His shit used to look like an elbow. It was real pointy and shit. Like, I mean, it was just, if he was experimenting and that was his first issue, that's a no. You know what I mean? You should already have your combination. You should already have your style, your formula. You should already be prepared to thrash that paper. You know what I mean? You should already know how to. But this guy just when he laid it down in a hurry, and it was so, oh man, misproportioned like crazy, man. If you don't believe me, go look at his work. Go look at X Force in the '90s. Go ahead, go look at his Domino. Every female, it was an oval shape, but every female's chin was real pointy. I'm talking pointy now, doorstop pointy. That's a no. When he drew Deadpool, he would always draw him with one arm shorter, and he couldn't draw him standing up straight. He would always have to draw him at an angle or shooting from across on a side view. When he had this angle here with the two guns aiming at you, you see how this, you see the bicep short and it's just all he would do was just draw. It looked like he had no arms and he just drew two hands just like this in front of you. You see how weird that looks? You don't get to see the shoulder or anything like that. And if he wanted to make it look closer to you, he just drew a bigger pair of hands, but with no elbows, no wrist showing, no parts of the nothing, no proportion. He was an incomplete artist that was getting millions of dollars. Because at that time Marvel was desperate because they lost Jim Lee, McFarlane. I mean, they lost a lot of guys, and these guys opened the Image, and then you know, um, and for me, last but not least, is Mark Silvestri. He made Wetworks, and Mark Silvestri. If you guys got to check that out, Mark Silvestri. I think he drew that movie that's coming out with Vin Diesel. He drew that character too. What is it? Bloodline, I think his name is, or Bloodspot, right? Or Bloodshot. I forgot. He used to draw him too. Mark Silvestri is like a Michael Bendis. He is a very detailed artist, man. This guy on a skin tight on a drawing, you can see like if the guy was really big and beefy, like the vein coming out, the vein pump, you would see the vein pump coming out of his fucking arm and shit. You know what I mean? I guess I lost the Star Wars dad. If you're still there, get on. Anybody, once again, I'm going to throw the link on. If you guys want to jump on with me, you guys are more than welcome. Here you are. Jump on. We can get on and talk. You can plug your channel, your work. But let's see. Oh, definitely. Okay, brother. You have yourself a good night. All right, he left me something. So like I said, man, the comic books are the thing, and I just named my top artists, and of course there are other artists as well within the comic book world and other international comic books as well, which I'll be sharing with you, in future episodes of, For the Love of Comic Books. You've got I mean, there are spectacular Japanese, I mean, should I say Chinese illustrators. I'm not sure if you guys ever read any Chinese comic books, but the art on that, beautiful. The anatomy, everything, the crosshatch shading, I mean, it's they're beautiful, and foreign comic books are done with love. That's why Japanese anime comic books, the real Japanese anime comic, not the small ones that come in a bunch like this. They look like graphic novels, but this is so because they've taken so much time to detail all of their work. This is what I'm saying, man. If you're gonna do something, just take your time. And I know that there are quotas to meet at the end of the month for the next issue. But what I'm saying here is make the best of your time. You know what I mean? Don't fuck around. If you've got 5 more minutes extra in your life, and you've got one of your panels with you, hey, if it needs more shading, get on it. If it needs, get on it. If it needs correct, get on it. Just get on it. Whatever you feel it needs, just get on it. But make sure you express yourself. You know what I'm saying, guys? Otherwise than that, I'm J. Cotto, the Boxing Jedi. This was episode 1 of For the Love of Comic Books. Catch me Wednesday, 9 p.m., where I will be reviewing for the first time and giving you guys a review reaction of some young artist, some very talented artist who sent me in the PDF, and I'll be selecting them and I will show you. Okay, guys? Otherwise than that, this is your comic book stream. You have all freedoms here, and I hope next time you guys will jump on the stream with me and interact. Stop being shy. Otherwise than that, I'm J. Cotto. God bless each and every one of you, and stay vigilant. And remember, keep drawing, keep writing, and keep collecting. Peace, fellas.